Hey everyone, welcome back to Building the Middle. Today we'll be sitting down with Steve, Jesse, and Mike from Plaid Shirts. Steve's been embedded on building middle housing for over a decade here in Calgary. Some of his early days were spent with Serena Homes, who were initially doing middle housing long before the industry had grown the way it has. Today we'll actually go through some of Steve's sites, understand what some of the challenges are when it comes to building middle housing, and also what the future looks like with his own personal endeavor, and Snap, who's really looking at how do we really create net zero middle housing and build sustainable models that we can continue to build in the future. Looking forward to see what you think.
We're Plaid Shirt Building and Development. My name is Jesse. I'm the project manager, one of the owners.
My name is Steve Norris. I do project development for us.
My name is Mike Mills, and I do construction management and final turnover.
We started Plaid Shirt about 4 years ago. We had worked together on previous projects and then just kind of decided, hey, we should be doing this together. And right away, we started getting a lot of multifamily jobs. So it quickly turned into, a focus on missing middle housing. So learning how to do townhomes with secondary suites and row homes, because it's really a unique part of the industry that's taken off and is growing very quickly. Well, the new land use rezoning bylaws in the last few years have really accelerated the process. And then with Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation providing really good financing terms, it's taken off. So it's become a big part of the market. People are becoming more aware of, the negative impacts of urban sprawl, and a lot of cities, across the world actually are focusing in on, densification within cities. That's where people have, opportunity for work and life, and it is more sustainable in some ways living within cities. So rather than spreading out our infrastructure in building new greenfield developments, this city of Calgary especially has kind of made an effort on trying to densify our inner city.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people too that want to live in a new home or a multifamily home that's in established communities where the infrastructure is already there. You have fully matured trees, you have parks and recreation that's nearby, as opposed to things in the greenfield where it's all brand new and doesn't have the same feeling and vibe that inner city communities have. So I'd say a lot of our clients that's a big key component of why they want to live in the inner city, because it's already developed, fully matured, and just these communities are nice places to live. So there's also challenges with neighbors. Many times in any given parcel of land, you have many people that are on board with the project, that understand that the densification is needed, that these units are needed, that know that when an old house is demolished and a new building goes in, it actually helps their property values, these type of things. But there's always neighbors that are unhappy with the project.
Well, a lot of these lots are very constrained for the area that we were working within. So, for example, loading or storing materials presents a challenge, because if we're building in areas that are outside the city or on the edge of the city, there's usually pockets of land that we're able to utilize for storing materials and staging equipment and whatnot. But on the inner city, we're working on streets that are already finished and occupied by residents. So we have to contain all our materials within a small area, and we're usually covering most of that lot with building. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we run into in the construction side.
Backtracking from construction though, the challenges start very early on in the DP and the planning phase, which Steve, sees a lot of those at the start when clients first start talking about, I want to build this project here, I have this idea for developing it. So what do you see there?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of challenges on the planning and development side as well too. Land use has changed very quickly, and that's development permit side, but it doesn't always align well with building permit. So the city is encouraging these new, building forms, secondary suites and multiple units on smaller sites. And, the interpretation of building code isn't always black and white. So sometimes those things aren't in alignment, and it's pretty new. So we find that, At the development side, our planning managers are trying to sort out what's allowed and what isn't allowed. And then on the building side, our safety code officers are trying to interpret, building code based on these new kind of forms, and they haven't quite aligned yet. So that's one of the things that we're hoping happens over the next couple of years, as those, hiccups kind of get worked out and make the construction side easier.
I think more people aren't doing it because it's more difficult than just building in the greenfield. To do, a full demolition of an existing house where you're dealing with existing infrastructure, and you're building to that is way more complicated than just building a new house in a new development.
Well, and that's why, Middle started as an organization, is part of this process trying to facilitate and accelerate the ability to do missing middle housing, because it is super complicated. Everywhere from, acquiring the land if you don't own it already, planning, financing, and let alone building and occupying. So it is complicated, and more average people and homeowners are able to do it now, but they need a good team of people around them, because it's not simple. The negative interactions that we have with neighbors is fairly small.
Yeah.
And the biggest issues are at the planning stages, when homeowners or if architects are submitting development permits. Those conversations during public engagement with the neighbors and community associations are much more complicated and harder to deal with, because not all that is like a face-to-face conversation with someone. Sometimes it's these long permit battles sometimes. So and sometimes we get into that a little bit. If I'm speaking with neighbors, a lot of the times it's just some people just want to vent, whereas other people would like to talk about the changing in their community. And that does open some doors to talk about things like, okay, you're going to have more neighbors, but that hopefully will be a positive thing. Could mean more vibrancy. Might mean the coffee shop near you is going to survive because it has more business. The school might stay open because there are more kids around. And a lot of people don't realize that the neighborhoods have less people now than they did in the 70s, because we just have smaller families. The demographic is changing. There's more singles out there, more divorced couples, fewer children per home. So it is changing. And I think in some ways time just has to pass, and neighborhoods change and cities change. And some people will deal with that, and some people have a harder time with it.
Certain communities in the inner city that have gone through that change, maybe 10, 15 years ago, most of those residents are used to that now, and there's less appeals on development permits, and there's more people on board with densification and getting new projects in. And then some of the other communities that we're in, that maybe only in the last 5 years or so, you're starting to see more and more of these, and those are the ones where you have more people putting up walls against that. But in time, the city has to grow, and people need homes, and so it's the natural progression forward, and it's just every community will go through those different life cycles as they grow and change. The architectural team is working very closely with community associations and existing infrastructure and design and vibe to, for the most part, make sure these projects can contribute to what's already there as far as the vibe and the feel of those areas, rather than something that's drastically different or taking away from it. So
we're taking it on at construction stage, so it depends on the amount of involvement we have at planning and development. The project that we're going to start for Kayla Brown is a good example. She did quite an extensive process of evaluating the community for unique architectural features and then deciding which ones to incorporate into that build. So a lot of that relies on the architectural support that you have, and the direction that the client gives that architect, because then they can, tie it into the community or not tie it into the community. They don't always get done well, so there are examples out there, of bad projects that don't fit in well. We have homeowners. Well, we have a number of clients that come from different levels of expertise. So some people have already engaged, an architect, engineers. They have plans and permits because they've engaged the right people. Other people come to us at a fresh slate. They say, I've never done this before. Is it feasible? Can I do it? And there is a lot to it. It's not as simple as CMHC makes it sound, where if you do 5 units, you get 95% lending and away you go. It is a tough journey. So you either need a really good development coach to help you along the way, consultant support. I would also recommend going through the middle school program. That's kind of a unique resource that's developed that kind of walks, a homeowner through that process from, beginning to end. So, and part of that process is identifying who are all the people that I need with me for, design, for financing, for permits, for community engagement, for, rental management at the end of the project. So you kind of have to have all these pieces in place. Yeah, so I have a smaller company, Snap Building, and I've been focused on this for a while, and I'm doing smaller like retrofit projects, and now into some single family and laneway net zero, so kind of on the smaller side. And what we try to do is bring everything that I've been learning on that side and bring it to multifamily construction, because it is a challenge. So every client that comes to us, we kind of present some options and say, hey, how high is the sustainability on your list of priorities? What can we do for you to kind of elevate your project to the next level? And for some clients, it's kind of a non-starter. It's not their priority, it's their first project, and they just want to keep it simple and be successful financially on it. Whereas other clients are ready to, dip their toes in the water and talk about, I'd like to try a heat pump because I know that I'm going to need cooling in this building as our temperatures get higher. Or they'll say, what can we do to simplify the mechanical systems in these small little basement suites that don't need a fully ducted furnace? So there's a few ways that we can kind of introduce people to those. And then the other thing is, I have a project with some partners that we're going to look at a little bit later in Highland Park, which is 9 units, and it's designed to be passive house, so very low consumption, and targeting net zero with all electric solar panels. And so for us, that's become a bit of a pilot project as well too, where we're, trying some new things, and then at the end we'll be evaluating them and saying, okay, look, we could do this differently and better, more cost effectively. And our goal is to kind of get it to a point where a lot of those features become cost neutral and become a financial benefit to those clients. So we have a better case to take to somebody and say, hey, look, we think you should do this, and here's the reasons for it.
So this is our black and white project in Ramsey, and it was named that because many people will recognize the black and white meat and grocery building. It was stood since the 50s at the corner of 8th and 17th here. Very interesting build. We got 3 buildings. We got a 5-plex at the front. We got a 6-plex at the back. And this original building that was here, initially, we planned to do a restoration on it, but when we took some of the old stucco and siding off, we discovered that the entire structure of the building was completely compromised. There was no way to rebuild it. So we demolished it, and Hindle Architects redesigned the building basically to the exact same form that the original building was there. So it's this Art Deco style, which is pretty unique in the area, and capturing and maintaining that same look and feel that so many of the residents here have been used to seeing for the last 70 years. So I'll show you where this building is at up here. We're just about done building 1. They're doing the exterior finishing right now. The interiors are just about done. So over here we have the black and white meat and grocery building being rebuilt. The framers have the exterior walls up, and due to some code compliance, there's steel walls adjacent to the other buildings. The framers are just working on getting the roof put together right now. And then the front of the building will have that exact same rounded overhang that the original building had, finished in the same style as the original building was. So it's going to be a really cool piece of this project that maintains some of the soul of Ramsey that's been here for so long. So we're in the courtyard of the black and white project. Behind me is the 6 unit with all the garages. And then in front of us here is the 5 unit townhome with the black and white grocery building on the corner. So this courtyard will be a shared space for both of these buildings. It's going to be really amazing. Big water feature, landscape, tall trees all through here. So really nice private amenity space, even though we're in a really busy, vibrant area of Ramsey. Pretty cool project where these residents have their own garage. They come through and then they just walk through the courtyard to their home. And then the residents that'll be in the back building, they have their own garage and go up into their unit. So we're in the ground floor of Unit 1 of Building 1 at the Black and White project. Just about complete inside. We're just doing some of the finishing touches. We're going to be developing the front part as well into a bedroom and bathroom, but just a nice amenity space down here. Nice oak hardwood throughout. Buyers of this property will enjoy the vibrancy of the community and being right there, but then they still have the private amenity space in the courtyard, which is really nice. Every unit on this building has its own deck off the second level. So pretty simple fit and finish as far as design goes, very clean, straight lines, but an elevated finish.
So this one is a true missing middle housing project that we're doing in Bridgeland. It's for a homeowner who lived here previously and is going to move back into one of the units and hold the rest of it as a rental project. Interestingly enough, the client also works in the industry in affordable housing, so understands the challenges of affordability in our city as well too. So this is 5 units, so it's under CMHC financing. It's got 3 primary units, and then 2 of the units have basement suites as well too. Site safety is a big deal. We want to take care of all of our people, and so we need these site safety stations in all of our projects in case something happens. And you can see around you some of the realities of construction. Drywall taping is quite a messy stage, and so managing this over a number of sites with a number of units becomes a challenge. So site supervision is huge in the industry.
This project is kind of like the poster child for missing middle because it's rent controlled. It's a simple but good looking build that contributes to the area. It offers really nice amenities for families that would move in. Like Steve said, instead of one family getting to enjoy this area in Bridgeland and the park and other things around here, now it's 5 families that can do that, and it's great.
Yeah, plus the developer or the owner is, the guy that lived here originally and is moving back into it, so is integrated in the community and working in the industry for affordable housing as well.
I'm Jayden Tait. In my work life, day to day, I'm president and CEO of something called Attainable Homes Calgary. We call it AHC. AHC is a provider of non-market affordable housing owned by the City of Calgary. So it's really important work. I've been doing that about 6.5 years. In my spare time, I do things like this. It was always my intention to do something different on the lot, to build a different type of living on it. And because in my career I've been doing multifamily living for a couple of decades now, it became almost a no-brainer vision to do something like a row townhouse project. So the people that'll be living here face onto the park and can use the park anytime. It's a fantastic little setting. In fact, in the winter, we used to build a temporary skating rink in this park. So there's a real strong neighborhood vibe and pull to use this park. I built with a buddy, we built the cornhole boxes you see over here. I mean, we do birthday parties and all kinds of events and have a great time in this park. Kids have grown up, learned how to throw a football in this park. It's really meaningful. So to be able to provide access to this space for 5 families living in the project you see behind you is very important. The units were very purposefully built to have a maximum amount of bedrooms and a maximum amount of space, so we could have a whole bunch of different types of people being able to access a community with incredible schools, great retail, and walkability to the downtown core. All those things that the best Calgary communities have, and then be able to introduce them to a lifestyle and a real calmness in living in Bridgeland that I've been fortunate enough to be able to live in for 20 years.
So this is a site that we're working on in Capitol Hill. It's an HGO zoning, which is special because it's kind of close to a main transportation corridor. So this is actually 10 units. So it's 5 primary units with secondary suites. At least that was the original intention. But due to some of those differences in bylaw zoning and building code that we talked about, we had to make some adjustments along the way. So actually now the back building has been changed to units with dwelling units below, which is kind of different because it changes the building code classification. So this project is actually a good example of how the changing bylaw and building code causes issues with missing middle housing. So during our permit process, we had to modify a number of things along the way, including whether or not we had a carport, how that carport was constructed, where we had mobility storage lockers, did we have enough area for parking. And so right now we're in a 2-month delay because the sprinkler code changed in the meantime, and there's also some gray areas about what we need for fire suppression in the rear building. So we're trying to make accommodations for some of the weird code things that came up when the building design was approved. What we have here is a 70-foot wide parcel. It was a single family home before. Now we have 3 townhomes across the front, 2 stories. Each of them has a basement suite as well too. Nice big size, 3 bedrooms for the upper units. And actually the basement suites are 2-bedroom and over 900 square feet. So pretty generous size. And then we have 3 units over the garage in the back as well too. So we have 9 units total. Now this building is a pilot project. It's partially funded by the SSRIA, which is a sustainable research organization that has given us some grant money to provide research data on this, as well as financial analysis. And what the end goal is to be able to make a good financial case for sustainable construction. Because basically you're investing more money up front, but investing in the quality of the building and its long-term energy and financial savings. The basics of sustainability in construction is airtightness. So we have a lot of detail trying to make sure we're airtight. The second one is insulation. So we have very thick walls with lots of insulation as well too, which drives down our energy load. And what that does is allows us to simplify the mechanical systems as well too. So in these units we have very small heating and cooling loads and needs. We are all electric here, so we have no gas service. And all of our appliances are electrical, so we have no vents, no penetrations in our envelope for gas-fired appliances like furnaces, hot water tanks, that kind of thing. So all electric, and what that means is we're able to provide enough solar over the course of a year to be net zero, which means we're producing as much energy on site as we're consuming.